Welcome back to Game to Movie, where me, author Drew, and my friend and gamer, Matodi, say hello, Matodi.
Hi.
Excellent, we're back. We're going to talk about, as usual, how to turn some of your favourite games into great movies. Films based on movies are mostly bad. For every Detective Pikachu, there's an Assassin's Creed, and for every Sonic, there's a Max Payne. And we want to remedy that by providing movie studios with a roadmap for making a game into a great film. We talk about different games. So far we've done Minecraft, and what was the other one, Matodi?
What did we do?
Subnautica, I think.
Subnautica.
Unfortunately, James Cameron did not get in contact to, talk to us about how to do an underwater film.
Yeah, Subnautica was quite good.
As usual, in the background, you're going to have some footage from the Zelda... almost gave the game away. Well, I have given the game away. Today's game is The Legend of Zelda, particularly Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But we're going to talk about the whole franchise, and the footage you're watching is taken directly from Breath of the Wild. This is Matodi's first time playing any Zelda game, is that true?
Yes.
That correct?
Actually, I think I played briefly the top-down one.
Oh, okay. From on the SNES years ago.
Yeah.
Or on a Game
yeah.
Boy. Okay. Well, so Matodi, you've just played Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
The most recent Zelda game you played. Any thoughts?
It seems like I didn't play enough of it to have too many.
You don't think?
Too many thoughts of it. Well, I played for an hour, and you're gonna see me fail miserably.
No, not really. I think you picked it up pretty quick for a Zelda game.
I quite like the game mechanics, even though I've only played it for a little bit.
True. I think if you got more into it...
Maybe the story is going to pick up.
Well, we could go through this whole story, but really we're going to look at the Zelda franchise as a whole. This is just the most recent version of it.
And there's going to be a new one, is that right?
Yeah, Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think it has a subtitle yet, but that's going to be amazing. I love the trailer for it already. Anyway, let's not get stuck on that. But I think that the Zelda franchise would be a great film. Particularly if we did it like Lord of the Rings, like a very epic fantasy adventure, and take the time with it. It's not as... I don't think you can do Zelda in a single film, is my opinion.
Animated?
It would look amazing if animated.
Yeah.
A truly epic one. But you could do it live action, I'm sure.
Live action?
Like, there's nothing about it that wouldn't be great in live action. So let's talk a bit about the game. Let's give everyone a good basis. You're watching the introduction to Breath of the Wild. I'll let that run in the background. Now, the Zelda franchise, the Legend of Zelda franchise, was created by Nintendo in 1986, developed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka, legendary developers at Nintendo. Now, The Legend of Zelda is a fantasy action-adventure game incorporating many RPG elements. The first game in the series, The Legend of Zelda, was for the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, and this spawned about 20-odd games, some of which are like remakes and updates and HD versions of older games. Now, all the games are mostly based in the land of Hyrule. The game follows, weirdly, not Zelda. And instead, a boy called Link, who you're seeing on the screen right now, he's the playable character who must, alongside Zelda mostly, defeat Ganon, who is primarily trying to take over Hyrule by obtaining the Triforce, which is made up of... Well, it's a triangle made up of 3 triangles, and each triangle represents the 3 goddesses of Hyrule. And each triangle, they're all gold, represents power, wisdom, and courage, respectively. And those 3 things are also imbued within the 3 main characters, Zelda, Link, and Ganon. And these 3 characters are incarnated in various ways throughout all the games. Although games like Majora's Mask, which can be summarised as Link's weekend break on acid, take place in other realms and completely other societies. Now, Matodi, although I think I said this in our Minecraft video, this game might actually be the hardest game to turn into a movie. Any idea why?
Is it because it's very long?
Yes, that's very true about the Zelda games. What you usually do is deal with 5 or 6 dungeons, sometimes more, that you have to find various treasures in that help you defeat Ganon. Sometimes it's assembling a Triforce, sometimes it's trying to find the Triforce, sometimes it's just trying to awaken 5 guys who will help you out if it's not too much trouble. So it is very long. But I think the main reason why this would be a difficult game to turn into a film is because Link, the playable character, has virtually no dialogue to speak of whatsoever in the entire franchise. Sometimes there's little things where it seems like he's talking, but the characters are just reacting, especially in the more modern games. I think in the NES and Super NES versions he does have a sort of dialogue box occasionally. But in a sense, because he doesn't speak, we don't get much of his personality. Which, would that be a problem, do you think, turning a game into a film? If the main character, so to speak, didn't really talk.
He didn't speak. No, not really.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think if you play 100 hours of a game and you get attached to the characters, it doesn't really matter. You'd still want to see them on the screen, the big screen.
So in a way, inventing a personality and speaking for Link wouldn't hinder the film, even though he doesn't speak in the games.
Yeah.
Because Link is one of those characters who you embody and you imbue with your own personality.
I mean, you can always be a different character that does speak.
So rather than narrate or show the film, you show from a third-person character who watches the action. That's interesting. Now, the only time Link has, to my memory, as Link has ever spoken throughout the entire history of Legend of Zelda series is a cartoon series from 1989. And it's so bad, I'm telling you this, it's so bad, we would never mention it again.
Oh.
Because it's terrible. So, how do we do this? Let's try and approach the Legend of Zelda series and turn it into a game. Now, I do have some ideas, but let's talk a little bit first about how to do this. So let's think about the world of Hyrule. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's in some sense, it's a typical fantasy realm. You've got... It's medieval, that's for sure. But I think it's fair to say it's very diverse. You've got various different races. You've got the Zora, like aquatic race. You've got the Gorons, who are kind of like a cross between trolls and dwarfs in that sense. The personalities of dwarfs with the physical stature of trolls. You've also got the Gerudo, which is an entire society of women. Mm-hmm. And then your ordinary Hylians. Oh, in this game they have the like bird people who fly around and use their wings as hands somehow, mm-hmm. and that's about it for races. So it's like Lord of the Rings. You could have different societies being shown, but we have a bit about the plot. How do you feel about them? The primary quest in all Zelda films is to get your hands on the Triforce. Do you think that's a good enough sort of plot point?
Yeah, it sounds like it is.
One of the things about this plot point, though, the Triforce, if it's touched by anyone, it splits up.
Okay.
One of the triangles will stay with you if you embody one of its chief characteristics: power, courage, and wisdom. The other 2 pieces will go and find avatars to sort of embody. How does that sound? So once you first find the Triforce, it breaks up, and then you have to search for it again.
So is there how does our character know how to do any of that?
So Link, for the most part, in all these games, especially ones that sort of reset timelines and whatnot, he goes in mostly not knowing anything, and he kind of picks it up from people as he goes. He's like the first step in any Legend of Zelda adventure is kind of to get to the princess and Princess Zelda. She tells you what to do, and off you go and do it. And you do that in sort of dips and troughs. Perhaps the most famous Zelda game, Ocarina of Time, at least the one that really changed the franchise. Link is told by a fairy called... how can I forget these things? A fairy, anyway, tells him, Navi, that was it, tells him to go to the princess, because he's the chosen one, who's the only one who can wield the Master Sword, which is kind of like Excalibur. And so then he gets. I think it's fair to say Link gets told a lot where to go by people that he meets along the way, but he's very directionless himself.
Is that why it's open world and it's not like narrative driven?
This is really the first sandbox version of the game, but I would have said that Zelda, for the most part, is kind of random. You can choose and take side quests an awful lot, and sometimes you can just enjoy the world with little subplots here and there. This one, Breath of the Wild, is the first one where, if you wanted, you could spend the entire game not even doing the main plot and just go around doing whatever you wanted: cooking, buying a house, setting up a village, climbing, just going to locales and looking out on sweeping vistas, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I realised something though yesterday when we were preparing for this particular episode, is that crucially the film has to be about Zelda because it's called The Legend of Zelda. But in earlier games, Zelda was just a damsel in distress kind of princess. In older games, in more recent games, especially starting with Ocarina of Time, I think, she has taken on a bigger role in the games. She's crucial to helping Link in every episode, and especially in this one, Breath of the Wild, which also, if you take into account Hyrule Warriors, which is like a Dynasty Warriors kind of game, but based in Hyrule, it really sort of shows you why she's the actual focus of it, and it gives, in a way, she has the most important role. It's just unseen in kind of the background, because right now, Princess Zelda is in the castle, holding back evil. She's spent a century just using her own sort of innate power to hold back evil like a shield, which, if you think about it, would be like 100 years. She's still a teenager, and she's just been holding it back with her pure power. Like, could you imagine doing that, Matuli?
Not for 1,000 years.
100 years, just 100 years. But even 100 years would be bad, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And she's been waiting for Link to repair himself and get out of his bed and start doing something. Well, that's a classic way. I think we've just accidentally stumbled on how the film should start. A lot of the times they start with Link just lying in his bed doing absolutely nothing, being quite lazy, and then he gets the call to adventure. So the film should legitimately start with Link in his bed, getting erupted by his gran, the fairy, or Zelda. Get up off your butt and go and do something. That's how the film should start.
Nice.
Kind of how this one should start. I realised something though this week. I was reading a couple of articles on films. I came across one which was titled 9, 10, whatever the number was, actresses or female characters who overshadowed the male characters in their films, even though those male characters were played by very prominent actors. And it's sort of an example was Terminator 1 and 2, how you've got Schwarzenegger, the big role, especially Terminator 2, but the breakout character, the one you actually empathise with, is Sarah Connor, really. She takes it over, and she's the legendary one, because she's the one, this normal woman who got something thrown upon her that you're going to raise the future leader of the resistance, and she takes that sort of extreme motherhood role to an amazing, empowering sort of way. And then, like The Edge of Tomorrow, have you seen The Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that Emily Blunt's character is sort of, she's more important in the plot. Tom Cruise's character might be the one resetting time and trying to do it all. And yes, he's the hero at the end of the story, but he's ultimately nothing without Emily Blunt's character, Rita Rataski. I think that's right. And I've realised that films like this are the perfect basis to make a Legend of Zelda film. You've seen Mad Max Fury Road, haven't you?
Yeah.
That, I think, would actually form... The thinking in Mad Max Fury Road would form the basis of a good Zelda film. Because, in it, the main character is Mad Max.
Okay.
From his perspective, you see the whole story.
Okay.
He makes some decisions which, conclude the story, right? But ultimately, the breakout character is Furiosa. The new female character played by I forget names so easily.
She,
Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we should think about our Zelda film. Link, Mad Max, drives the story forward with some of his actions, and he does a lot of the action and important stuff.
Right.
But the heart of it is Furiosa, Zelda, in our case. And that's the way to think about this film, I think. That the film must make Zelda legendary in it. And Breath of the Wild does that very well by portraying Zelda as this incredibly powerful person who's keeping the darkness at bay while Link goes about his adventuring, trying to get everything ready to ultimately destroy evil. So, in many respects, it's like a typical fantasy film as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be animated.
You think it should be animated?
It should be. It sounds like it. Because it's like watching the story unfold in 2.5 hours, rather than.
It would. I think you'd need to do it in either one long film or at least 2 long films, maybe 3. Break the story up.
Why?
Because it's incredibly epic. The story.
Mm.
It's not really short, and there's lots of things to sort of, in a sense, cover with the game. Like a game is such. Like I've been playing Zelda. That you're fresh to this.
Mm.
I've been playing these games for years. What's important to me is to see all the different races throughout the film. It's important to show the various equipment. So, for example, is there like a weapon or tool in a game that your favourite that's like it's key to that game?
Yeah, it's got to be the big sword.
The big sword in what game are you talking about? Sorry.
Well, in every picture of that you see Link, he's got a big sword.
Yeah.
He's carrying a big sword.
Yes. So the Master Sword, as it's called.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial to the game, and he has to sort of pull it like an Excalibur sort of situation.
Okay.
And then the sword is also a key component in the game. Without it, you can't defeat Ganon. Ganon is a red-haired sort of dark wizard kind of character. He can also turn into a giant boar with tusks, massive tusks. Okay. In fact, if the scene that we're watching right now is going to be correct, yes, we're going to see it. If you watch carefully, from this mist is going to be Ganon. It's just a bit of purple mist. So you see it? Looks like a boar. You can see the eyes, the snout. You see it?
Yeah.
That's Ganon. Ganon's true form. Now he is he's actually the only male born to the Gerudo I mentioned earlier. So there's a society of women. They always give birth to women, and then once every 100,000 years, however long it is, there's a male born, and he leads them to sort of glory and war, and that's what Ganon's role in this story is.
Mm-hmm.
So in it, Ganon's characterization might be based around the fact that he seems imbued himself with a prophecy that because he's the only male, he is special, and he has to do something with that responsibility, because that's what the Gerudo do. They always at that time, whenever man is born into their society, they say this is the time to do something great, and off the Gerudo go. So that gives him a better sort of a sense of himself. That it's not just a power grab for him. It's a sort of Ganon would feel a responsibility to do something with his unique situation within the game's universe, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, Matoda, you just died in the game.
I did.
That was your first death, I think.
Yeah.
Happens frequently. And
rest in peace.
Rest in peace until Hyrule needs you again, which is right now. And you're going back into it.
Yeah. Thankfully, saves quite frequently.
Yes, it auto saves as well as you're able to save it yourself. So, here's a question.
Interesting mechanics in the game.
Yes, and in a way, those mechanics should be reflected in the film to some extent. You've got your heart containers. Sometimes the games have magic sort of containers, so you can use magical spells with a limit to them. I don't think in a film you could show those in the top right-hand corner. You'd have to think of a way to...
I died again.
To visualise them. You almost, by the way, surfed on a shield. That's one of the things you can do in the game.
Almost.
So the question is, right, it's a fantasy story. Do we follow... Should Zelda follow a because it's kind of a traditional sort of fantasy story. You have to go on a quest, you have to find the magical artifact, you have to use the artifact to defeat the Dark Wizard. Do we stick to that, or do we try and, vary that somehow, or do something different? And what could we do differently?
Well, we can make Link speak.
Yeah.
It will feel different.
It would, definitely.
Yeah, and the soundtrack needs to be epic.
That will be no problem. Zelda has a long history of excellent music.
No, the actual soundtrack for the film.
We wouldn't be able to do... I think out of place would be new songs. Like, you wouldn't do songs. It's kind of Lord of the Rings-esque music, is my opinion.
Yeah, the score.
Yeah. The score, that's it. That's exactly it. Well, Zelda games have excellent scores themselves, which could be easily reusable in a film.
Mm.
I do agree with your idea that it should be animated, because in some ways, one of the charms of Zelda is the sort of... It swings back and forth sometimes. Sometimes it's very sort of almost childish. Wind Waker got a bit of flack for looking a bit childish. But Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time are praised for being as sort of more mature in their visualizations. Mm. And Breath of the Wild is a sort of happy medium. And I think it's fair to say that Skyward Sword was also quite in the middle. So, can you think of an animated film that would give us the kind of look that we're thinking of?
Animated film.
Like, maybe this is wrong, Into the Spider-Verse. But that's more comic book. That's too comic book for its visual style, therefore might not suit Zelda.
Trying
to think of really good.
The animated style?
Yeah, I mean, can you think of a film that has an animation style that would copy and paste onto a sort of Zelda?
Probably not. No, I mean, you can use the same sort of style, can't you? As the game.
So in a sense,
it's like
cutscenes.
Yeah, it's like yeah, but basically like a bunch of cutscenes just stitched together.
So the look here of Breath of the Wild, the way the cutscenes are visualized here.
Yeah.
But you were saying to me,
but with a bit more action,
A bit more detail.
Yeah, a bit more action. It doesn't have to be static, and it doesn't have to be over the shoulder.
Because you said that you're not actually very pleased with this the way the game looks. You said this to me earlier.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I mean, it can be improved. Let's put it that way.
But the general feel and look of it, you're happy with.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that works in myself. For myself, I do love the way this game looks. I think it's the best looking Zelda game. It's hard to play Ocarina of Time nowadays because it's so blocky. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
I mean, maybe it's going to look better on the Switch. We're playing on the Wii U, but I haven't seen it on the Switch.
Here's one thing: Zelda is famous amongst the fan base for dungeons. Mm-hmm. So you have dungeons in every game. I feel not every game, but a lot of games.
Yeah.
But I think in a Zelda game, you need to show them. And even though you've not played a lot of Zelda, how do we put dungeons on the big screen? How do you include them in a plot in a way that's that's not sort of stopping things? Because dungeons are puzzles. That means there's a lot of time with them. How do we get that onto the big screen?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Just make it part of the story. Like if he goes to get a piece from from the Triforce.
So let's say that the Triforce is broken up and one part of it is in a temple, for example.
In a temple, one is in a dungeon.
So he has to go inside. I'm trying to think of a film that has a similar sort of look to it, where they do puzzles inside, and then and then do it.
Or maybe it would.
Like an Indiana Jones thing. I just realised Indiana Jones, because Indiana Jones involves going into a temple, solving puzzles, and coming out with the treasure.
Yeah, Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones.
I guess the difference would be the boss.
Yeah.
Because you would have your several different temples, all different looks. Different puzzles, so you're talking multiple different sort of styles of Indiana Jones, and then the boss before the puzzle.
Yeah,
and the boss battles would be epic.
Yeah. What about what about it? What if it's? I'm wondering if it's going to work better as a TV series.
A TV
A
series.
TV series in
This is called game to movie, Matodi. We didn't call it game to TV. But let's go down this road because maybe you're right.
because there's so it seems like there's so much content that you wanna
You could certainly do it as say 12 episodes every episode.
or even not 12, even as a 3 episode longer.
So take one film, break it up into 3 distinct episodes,
Yeah,
and lengthen them slightly, and then
yeah, maybe an hour and a half.
okay.
Something like Sherlock Holmes, something like that.
Oh yes, I see. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes episodes are 1.5 hours, aren't they?
An hour and a half.
Or Sherlock, I should say. The BBC version, if you're
The
watching from
the better
overseas.
ones, yeah.
Really, I don't. I think Elementary is the better ones, but let's not go down that road. But I get your meaning on sort of length and that. So rather than 3 long films like Lord of the Rings, we just do 3 long TV episodes, so to speak. Could work. I don't see why
Yeah,
not.
I think that would work.
You need more time.
and you'd have enough. You'd give enough space for the story to breathe and to explore. The different mechanics, and it's like an adventure, basically.
It is an adventure. There's another problem with it. I just realised actually looking at this footage. Link is always travelling alone in the film, but we need sub characters.
A companion.
Well, sometimes he's got Navi, which is the fairy, buzzes around his head. Sometimes annoying.
Yeah.
But otherwise, she's got her personality in Ocarina of Time, for example, is kind of bossy, maybe.
Mm.
But she's also, but bossy is probably wrong because what she's trying to do, she understands the truly epic nature of what's going on, and she has to move along this boy who starts every game lying in a bed, unwilling to get up and start the day. So, like Navi is crucially aware of everything that needs to happen and is desperately trying to make it happen, and she understands that Link is the only one, and she trusts Link. But Navi would be a companion that probably should be in the game. So that's Navi. What if he was joined by several members of the other races involved, like along the way a Goron, who's the troll-like, dwarf-like characters, and it would be a break from Zelda films, Zelda games, to have Link walk around with friends. He's usually a lone wolf kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a party in this game. There's one thing I should say that should be in the film. If Link ever encounters a treasure chest, you need the sound effect, which I will play now for you on the video. Mm-hmm. Tony can't hear it because I've got it playing right now, but it's something that definitely needs to be in a game, in a film or TV series. That's what we're talking about now.
It's gonna be epic, I think.
It would be epic. Zelda has everything going for it to make a good film. Like we've talked about how there are difficulties. They are major challenges to be overcome when your main character has never spoken really in a game. Yeah. But it's got score. The games already have that. It's got the visuals, and it's got something unique in to combine the idea of dungeons and the typical fantasy adventure. Mm. So let's talk about Zelda a little bit as well. You've heard a voice on this footage that you've been playing. What do you think of Zelda so far? You've heard a voice sort of calling out.
It's this mystical figure.
Yes. Would you? So that's a good way, almost saying legendary in some sense.
Yeah.
She has that reputation in more recent games. She's the one who perhaps understands the full weight of her duty, and again is helping Link. In one game, she actually sort of dresses up as, I guess you'd say, yeah, definitely a male as a male character. She takes this disguise on as a male character, and she assists Link. Oh, excellent! That's how she should be in this film as well. She should partner with Link and go with him, but in this disguise that she wears.
Can we make Link to be a girl? To be a female? Because it's not like gender specific, is it? It's like it just says Link.
The character has always been male in every single game.
But can it be? Is there a reason for it to be male?
Other than continuity, maybe with the game series. Like, why would, if we're making it in a case of representation, then really we've got plenty of other there's plenty of other female characters in Zelda that really do represent, especially Zelda herself. There's also a number of Gerudo characters in the past, the all-female cast. One of whom has a sort of has sort of an excellent relationship because she's the rebel from the group. The Gerudo in some books like really follow Ganon and are really on his side, but there's one who rebels because she sees him for what he is. There's Princess Rito with the Zora, a sort of her character arc's interesting because she goes from just being a normal sort of pretentious princess to some extent, and then she becomes a fully fledged warrior. And in Breath of the Wild, it's a very complete. The Princess Rito-ish character is completely different, but much braver, like much more potentially, I guess you could say, capable than previous incarnations. So I don't know. I don't think there's a reason to particularly like gender swap Link. You could, because as you say, it's not a gender specific name as far as I'm aware, but it is a male character, and has been throughout. Although, funny enough, and this should probably be in the film as well, there is a bit of history in Zelda with him dressing up as women in order to infiltrate, like the Gerudo, for example. So there's a lot of there is certainly more depth to Link in some sense that should be displayed on screen. That's for sure. Maybe we can talk about bad guys for a little bit, because you've got Ganon himself, typical ginger wizard, in a sense. Not a Voldemort wizard, certainly not a Sauron wizard. But we've got a whole load of other bad guys. You've got these things, which are called Bobokin, I should say. You've got Lynels, which are half lions, half centaurs. Massive creatures. You've got, whatever. You've got the bosses, obviously. What other sort of... Oh, there's the Skull Kid, who's kind of like a Loki, mischievous sort of character. It'd be good to have him in it. What other main bad guys? Like, the Bobkin are standard sort of goblin characters, I suppose. And he just died again.
I just died again, yeah.
Clubbed in the face. But don't worry, we killed this guy and stole his clubs, that's fine.
Clubbed.
Bad guys regenerate a lot in this game, so maybe they should regenerate in the film. A lot of the times you meet a bad guy, you attack him, they go down, and then half an hour later they're back. How would you feel about meeting recurring bad guys over and over again in a game, in a film or TV series?
Probably not.
You think you get sick of that?
Probably not so much.
You don't want to see that. I'm trying to think of a film.
I mean, if you just have like 2.5 hours, I don't know how much you can squeeze in there. Apart from the story.
Well, that's why I think you need at least 2 films to do this.
Yeah.
And in some ways, you want to leave the first one on a cliffhanger. Like the cliffhanger would be Ganondorf touches the Triforce, he gets a modicum of his power, and then Zelda and Link get their bits, which Link gets the courage, Triforce of Courage, Zelda gets the Triforce of Wisdom. And Link's power sort of manifests in his ability to really just do meet the challenges of the game puzzle-wise, and I guess it's imbued in your power as the player in taking on the game and completing it. And Zelda gets the Triforce of Wisdom, which is personified most of the time with huge amounts of power that comes with it. What else could we talk about regarding films and turning this game and games like it and other Zelda games into...
I feel like it's going to be hard for the story to progress if you if Link doesn't speak.
He definitely should speak.
But then it wouldn't be authentic then.
Well, you don't speak. Not lots of games don't have talking characters, but there is a sort of in cutscenes there is some most of the time. Like if you Mass Effect, is it Mass Effect? Have you ever played that? You don't speak while you play, but characters interact with you. But when the cutscene happens, you do start to talk. Shepard does talk.
Yes.
Depending on your storyline.
Yes.
In Legend of Zelda, Link, I don't like the characters respond as if he said something, and you can get like dialogue choices, but it's rare in a Zelda game. He never you don't get personality from his speech. You get it in some cutscenes. He's just like standing there, taking it all in, and then you take over again. Like the cutscenes in Zelda games, don't tell you anything about. Oh, except for a couple of times where he'll be. Like the Gorons will try to hug him and he runs away screaming in Ocarina of Time, for example. And sometimes he'll go, like that. And that's about it. So it's, How do we turn a mostly non-speaking character then into a proper character? Is it even possible? Maybe this is what makes turning Zelda into a film impossible. It's the fact that the main character doesn't speak. Maybe we should think of him like the Terminator. The Terminator rarely speaks in the film, but there's still impersonality there, completely coming across in the way in the mannerisms.
But there is a reason for it.
There is a reason for it. There is no reason why Link can talk. That's implied, but we never hear him talk.
Yeah. So maybe he should.
So what voice do we give him? Like, what's his personality? In some ways, it's got to be blank slate-ish, but also you wouldn't connect with a character who doesn't emote. How do we get this guy to talk in a realistic fashion for our film? I'm trying to think of other films that do kind of the same thing. Think of a non-speaking character. Somehow they've imbued him. I promise. Nah, I can't mention it again. I want to talk about the TV series, but no, it's just too bad I can't mention it again. It just pains me that much. It's because he's courageous, and he goes in without a second thought. So however you get him to speak, there's none of that. Fear should not be a part of his characterization. To Link, he just doesn't think about not doing something brave. He'll just do it. So maybe that's a sort of Aragorn-ish trait. Aragorn goes in all the time without fear, for the most part.
Oh, I like that.
This is the bit where Matodi really enjoyed because he blew up this.
Oh, I like this one.
There.
Epic.
Epic indeed. And it gets better as the game progresses.
Really?
Because you get bomb arrows, so you don't need to do that. You just fire the arrow at the person and it explodes in their face.
Can you craft stuff as well?
In this one? You can craft recipes.
Okay.
That's crafting. You can improve some of your weapons.
Mm-hmm.
There's basic versions, and then you go to people with certain materials and they upgrade them for you. Mm-hmm. You can upgrade all your outfits so they do better. They're stronger. You can go somewhere and you craft some sort of like ancient weapons as well. Like they're like lightsabers and things like that.
Okay.
And that's cool. But otherwise, it's mostly the cooking. I don't think that's something that the film needs to cover because this is very recent to Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
I think thanks to a game called Hyrule Warriors. Have you ever played Dynasty Warriors?
No.
Dynasty Warriors is like a game where you run around as a single character and every sword swipe basically bats away 10 guys or 100 guys sometimes simultaneously.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Hyrule Warriors is like their version of it where Link can walk around and smack aside. And Zelda does it now, and I think all the other champions that appear in Breath of the Wild do it. So you can have, it's probably quite crucial to a Zelda film, you can display huge battles as well. with characters using magic to swat aside the, basically Ganon's meat shields in forms of like bokoblins and Lionels and bigger things as well. Hylocks, that's the other thing.
Yeah, I think. I think it's going to be. There's no reason why it should be. A boy. Male.
We'll leave that up to the filmmakers. It's their choice ultimately.
Yeah, it could be. It could be female. It doesn't.
Although there is I should warn you. There is a look to Zelda as well. Sorry, not Zelda. Link himself. There is a garb. He's not wearing it now, and he doesn't really wear it all that much in this film. But sometimes it's referred to as the hero's outfit. It's like a green tunic and hat, and there is perhaps a look that people would expect from the film. But we'll leave that up to them, whoever makes it for us, eventually. As long as they get the epicness of it, a good soundtrack, and I want a Lord of the Rings-esque Zelda film, where we're talking... Because Breath of the Wild perhaps showcases it better. Being out of cities, being away from the palace, things like that.
Yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily... It would work better if it's let's say a 3 or 4 hour
Definitely.
series rather than
you need
because you need that time for the story to breathe and
good. That's exactly how it should be.
And
Breath of the Wild breathe.
And for you to take in the epic visuals.
I think Zelda, Legend of Zelda really relies on that as part of. Natodi's about to be shot by a laser, which. Actually, how do you feel about this? This is a new addition to Breath of the Wild technology. It's kind of, it's like a medieval person coming across, I don't know, all the Star Wars or Star Trek tech and somehow being able to work. Do you think that's something that should be included in the film, or perhaps is not applicable in a medieval context?
Don't question it. It doesn't matter.
You don't think so?
No.
Do you think it's visually cool enough to even bother to include?
Yeah.
I guess then a film would have to be based on a singular Zelda game.
We're not really going for a medieval visuals here. No.
But that's the world of Hyrule. It's a medieval sort of...
Yeah, but it's magical.
True.
A magical...
I'm not sure if Breath of the Wild actually is implying that this is magical technology or actual technology that works this way. I've always assumed it's just technology so good that it looks like magic.
Mm-hmm.
To paraphrase obviously Clark there. You could make a film based on Breath of the Wild. But the problem is you don't see Zelda for a lot of it. Unless you did a sort of, like a fragment of Zelda sort of breaks away from her as she's holding back Ganon, and that fragment takes on her appearance and personality, and it's like her avatar to help Link, maybe. I think she's in one game, I think it's called Spirit Tracks, she is literally just a sort of spirit helping Link out on the whole journey. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to do a film based on Breath of the Wild entirely, but still that's a way to keep Zelda in it and also maintain the legendary status that she's built up by being this singular person holding back, in a sense it's almost like hell itself, that she's the only one standing in its way.
What about the genre? What genre?
Well, it's obviously fantasy. The question is...
Fantasy, adventure...
Definitely fantasy, adventure. It's not horror, I don't think.
Okay.
You can definitely throw in scenes of horror. There's this excellent cool creature which just... If you look at it in the right way, it's kind of like an Enderman. If you look at it the right way, it screams a horrible scream, which I'll try and play a sound for you now. And you have to freeze, and then it grabs on you and tries to it hugs you, but it's not a good hug.
Like a weeping angel.
In some sense, yeah, just kind of like that. Slightly different, but it's still, you look at it, and that's when the action takes place. That's a horrible creature, and that could surely be a scene of horror in it. romance. You see, this is hard because there is a sort of sense that Zelda games are portraying there's a romance developing between Link and Zelda, but in the same way, not every game does this. This game, if at all, tentatively applies it, tries to showcase it. The Twilight Princess, one of the best Zelda games. Link's got an entirely other girl that he's interested in, and that relationship is built up quite well, I think. She gets amnesia, and he has to throughout this, and that's we've hit upon it. That's how you give Link personality. You have to sort of give him his side story as being he's not and this is actually probably better for the game, that Link isn't trying to romantically connect with Zelda, because that also helps keep her status legendary, and instead you build up his personality by his concern for this other person that he's rescuing as part of the main adventure.
Okay.
And that way, that perfectly sort of brings out his personality, his fears, his worries for that person, his concern, and also perhaps tension in the story where he's being told to go do these adventures by Navi or Zelda, and yet he's constantly concerned about this person who's had amnesia. He's trying to get her to remember him, and that's where he gets tension with Zelda. He says, "Just leave me alone. I want to go do my personal things. I'll stop him. I want to stop doing these epic things."
He has amnesia.
Oh, in this one he does, but in the Twilight Princess, his significant other has amnesia. Okay. He spends the game trying to rejig her memory sometimes.
Okay.
And that's the personal connection which causes tension within the story between him and Zelda, and wanting to be with her. Like, in some sense, Link's personality, perhaps kind of like Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender, has a reluctance for the journey, a reluctance for the quest. So that's another way of having, putting his personality on screen, even though he's a non-talking character.
But why would he be reluctant though if he's courageous?
It's not like it's like he can do courageous things. Ask anything of him and he will do it. But that's the nature of the game, because you're the player. You always send Link in regardless of anything.
Okay.
But it's not a sort of laziness and courageousness. I think can still work in the character, but it's like Link sometimes is portrayed as someone who just wants to live in his lovely village and stay there. But when he gets the call to adventure, he'll take up the duty. And in Twilight Princess, he becomes a part of the main story because his sort of romantic interest gets taken away, and that draws him into the bigger picture. And in a sense, he realises, although you don't see it, almost like when I was playing the game, I sort of realised I've got to solve this big problem, otherwise I can't go back to my village with my romantic interest and live my life.
Mm-hmm.
So Twilight Princess is a good way to go, story-wise. Maybe this will have to actually combine elements of Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, and Twilight Princess. If you want floating islands, you'll have to go to Skyward Sword. And if you just want a climate change metaphor, you go with Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. But I guess that's a personal choice. Okay, Tony. I think we talked about a lot of good things there.
Yeah.
We
did talk about a lot of good things. How many hours did you play this game?
Oh, I don't know how long I played Breath of the Wild for, because there's no go here, go there, and do that. It's very sandbox and open world. There's a meme online of Zelda sort of standing in the castle, tapping her foot, looking at her watch, while Link is off just doing some really crazy random stuff. And if you watch little clips, I'll show you some of these afterwards of people just mucking around with the various mechanics of the games. Like, there's this thing that stops time for an object, and if you hit the object, you impart movement into it, but it doesn't move. So there's quite a few videos of people stopping the object, smashing it with a hammer, getting on top of it, and then suddenly the time expires, and the thing goes flying off into the distance, and so do you as Link. So Breath of the Wild is a bad way to see how long a game takes. Ocarina of Time, a good time, like a normal, not a speed run, so to speak, but a good time is 60 hours to do like Ocarina of Time. That's it was like a standard back in the day.
What about this one?
If you jump, by the way, on this one, you can go straight from the Great Plateau, the beginning part, and go straight for Ganon and try and fight him. You'll die unless you're really good at the game, which is possible. Okay. But you can complete the game in literally about, I don't know, an hour if you're good at it. Yeah. Otherwise, I would say the average gameplay would probably only take you something like 10 hours. Like,
really?
To get the Master Sword, to go to enough temples. If you were speedrunning it, you can certainly do it in less time. So, you don't think you can't transfer the game's hours to a film for sure. That wouldn't work. You'd have to. It's essentially, you'd have long sweeping moments of Link walking over various mountains or hills or through jungles or through deserts, like the Gerudo Desert, and then like montages of it, basically, like they have in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, people to play or to voice these characters if it's animated. See, that's very difficult because I can't imagine. I really can't choose a voice.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Oh, who could he voice?
Super Mario.
That's a weird casting choice. We'll talk about that in a future episode, I can promise you. I thought that was a very weird casting choice. Although Chris Pratt could possibly play a Goron in this, I think. Although, who's the director of Thor Ragnarok again? What's his
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, since he's played a rock man, he should play a Goron as well. I think that's for sure.
Yeah, but he's a comedic.
Yeah, but Gorons are fairly comedic in the game.
Oh, I see.
They're kind of they're loud and like proud kind of creatures.
Yeah.
Characters.
Oh, I nearly died.
I think really because Zelda and Link are young characters, you'd have to get like non-established. I mean, Tom Holland could probably voice. Back to the Toms could voice Link if we gave him a voice. That seems fair. Zelda.
Wait, Link and Spider-Man in the same universe?
No. No, I mean Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man, could voice Link. I could see that. That kind of age for an actor.
I don't know about that.
You don't get a man to play Link.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Well, Link is the hero of time. I think he can do it.
Yeah.
It's Ganon though. Who do you get to voice Ganon or play Ganon? There is a gingerhead actor who's pretty good. Is it Damian Lewis from Billions and Band of Brothers? I think that's right.
Billions? I haven't seen Billions.
Or
Band of Brothers.
Oh, you should watch those. They're great. But he's I guess I don't have to have the actor be ginger. Although Ganon is famously ginger. As a ginger bearded fellow myself, I really appreciate that representation.
Would you, if it's a girl, what would you, who would you pick?
No idea.
If it's a female character.
In some ways, I couldn't tell you. The actresses or actors would they would have to be like fresh actors in some sense. Like I think you'd have to get, because they're teenagers for the most part.
Yeah, so
you'd need to get teenage actors. So I don't know any sort of up and coming yet.
The girl who plays 11
from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine her voice because I watched
she's
Holmes
British.
recently. Zelda has no accent, so you could do British, American. You don't have to, restrain it to that.
No, for Link.
Couldn't tell you, because I would. To me, I would keep Link as a male. It works either way, but that's just because of so many games and a certain look to Link that I think would need to be maintained. That's just a personal opinion there. But the thing is, in some sense, while Link's personality is important, what really matters is, for me, a Zelda game, is the epic nature that you show through cinematography and score and action scenes where this small guy here is attacking big, massive bosses like dragons. And for some reason, someone playing drums. Definitely, if we're including bad guys, since we're talking about it, include the twins from Ocarina of Time. Fans of Zelda will know what I'm talking about. I love those. They're comedic as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we just call it The Legend of Zelda? Do we need a subtitle for this sort of thing?
I feel like maybe the subtitle should be The Adventure of Link.
Legend of Zelda: The Adventures of Link. Don't you think that clashes a bit too much?
Season 1.
Season 1. Legend of Zelda, Season 1.
Yeah, The Adventure of Link.
The Adventure of Link. Maybe if you did like multiple films or multiple episodes from a TV series.
I mean, it's going to be more like
The
Legend of Link, because
that's you've stepped a line, Matodi. You can't call it Legend of Link. It's the Legend of Zelda.
Well, it's from his perspective, isn't it?
But
he's the courageous one.
Yeah. Oh no, I've been sorry. You've crossed the line. You really have. It's like it's the Legend of Zelda. I will forgive you if you can think of a good tagline for the movie poster. The Legend of Zelda. Do not say The Adventures of Link. The Legend of Zelda. You know, like the Aliens one, like in space, no one can hear you scream. We need a good tagline for it, kind of thing. The Legend of Zelda. Master the Master Sword. Doesn't sound too good. Maybe something with Triforce in it. Seize the Triforce? That's partly what the characters are trying to do, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of anything? The Legend of Zelda. Poster. Typical poster, they're all Zelda, canon, like an Avengers poster, and then at the bottom, what could it say?
Open your eyes.
Sorry, the reason I'm laughing is because that does seem to work with the way Link is always sort of starts his journey asleep. The Legend of Zelda.
Open your eyes.
And it sounds kind of mystical as well. Yeah. Open your eyes. Okay, well done. I think you crushed it. Okay, we're coming to the end. We've talked for a good hour, but Zelda kind of requires it. Yeah. We need to, as you were saying before, we need to kind of shorten these videos down. But for now. That would do. If you're a filmmaker, if you work for Warner Brothers or Disney,
and you wanna,
don't get in touch with us. Get in touch with Nintendo, but do listen to us and put some of what we've said in the game, in the film,
and do get in touch with us.
But do get in touch with us. We would love to be producers on this. Executive producers for sure. Not gaffers. We would accept gaffer or lighting director, I suppose, but
assistant on the set.
We'll do the sandwiches and the coffee run, but
for the animators.
Yes, because you're right. There's next and for the actors and actresses in their booths. You know, do all that, and please think about what these things in the game.
Tom Holland.
They're kind of necessary. Again, Tom Holland. I think we just want to meet him, and that's why we keep name dropping him in these. So there we go.
Just Tom Holland, if you're after it, honestly, he's doing. I know you're busy. You're doing
every Spider-Man film now until the end of time, probably.
You're doing so many things
because he's too good. So yeah, we have to end it there. Please like and subscribe. Click the bell icon. You know what you're doing. This isn't your first time to YouTube, I assume. There we go. We've got a great movie ideas for Zelda. Please. Do not just make a standard game-to-movie version of Zelda. It needs to be epic. You need to take your time with it. Film it all at once, like Lord of the Rings. I know I keep saying Lord of the Rings, but really that's the good template from this. And think of Mad Max as well. Sounds weird to say, but the kind of Mad Max thinking is a great way to have the Link and Zelda be a massive part of the film. With the breakout character being Zelda, the legendary character, the one that this game is truly about.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's gonna be better for the story to put it in a maybe like a three or four episode, really long episodes, like an hour and a half.
Like a really good Game of Thrones series.
Yeah, season. three or four. Let's say, for example, he gets. The Triforce at the end of the third episode, and then the fourth episode is just an epic, like a manga style sort of
battles.
Like an hour and a half battle,
boss battles, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's gonna work as a Netflix or an Amazon series.
That will do. Netflix are flush with cash right now since they're burning through so many.
Amazon's got enough cash as well.
Well, Bezos has way too much.
They can buy Nintendo.
No, please don't buy Nintendo. I want Nintendo to always be independent. Okay, we're running out of time on our footage.
Yeah.
Matodi's about to go up cold mountain and then fall in the water.
There's enough.
I think
enough footage.
That's definitely enough footage. Should we just watch you fall in the water and freeze to death?
Yeah. You didn't tell me that I'm gonna freeze to death.
I didn't tell you a lot of things. I didn't tell you that jumping off a tower would kill you, but I kind of figured that you might figure that one out. But that was.
I thought that he had a parachute. Or...
he gets that later. Paraglider. Which I'm not sure how it works, really. Like, I'm not entirely sure that if you pulled out a paraglider mid-flight, your arms would snap off. I think. I'm no expert.
Really?
Well, if you think about it, if you're falling quite fast, you've reached terminal velocity. Link in this game can somehow reach behind him in whatever backpack he's keeping all this stuff in, whip it out, and just like hold it above his head in one fluid movement, and his arms stay on. But there is one thing about a film with this: how on earth do you portray Link holding all these items? Like, either go for broke and give him a device that allows him to keep all the items in one bag, or just like restrain these items somewhat. I don't know. But let's just watch Matodi fall in the river, and then we'll end this video. Again, like and subscribe, please. It really helps us out, and lets us know that you guys are watching. And also comment if you have our own ideas. Please put them in the comments.
Yeah, and please tell us who you want to play Link.
Exactly.
But please, Tom Holland, get in touch. But no, tell us who you want to.
I like how your play. Too late. It's gone. Good effort, Matodi.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Goodbye from me.
And from me. Bye.
Bye.